Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. If you have a father, I hope you treated him well today. If you are a father, I hope you had a great day and your children were awesome to you. I am not a father, at least I don't think I am. I haven't gotten any phone calls or anything, so I'm going to assume I'm not a parent. But, you know, it's an awesome holiday to have, and I'm always a blast hanging out with my dad because he's kind of a cool guy. So, yeah, I definitely had a good day today. Everything is good on my side of things. I did want to talk about a couple of things in this particular video. Going to be venturing off into various different directions just because that's the way my brain works. But as far as wrestling goes, I definitely wanted to talk about Ring of Honor Best in the World. I saw that last night. It aired Friday night. I ordered it, but I wasn't able to watch it live because I had other plans, which I'll talk about that in this video as well. But I did watch it, and I did want to, review and comment on it, basically give my overall impressions of Ring of Honor, and basically my thoughts on them since they've been on Destination America and what I hope for going forward. I also wanted to talk about Lucha Underground, which had their, had their all night long special where Prince Puma and Johnny Mundo had an Iron Man match that took up the entire show. So I wanted to talk about that as well. But another thing I wanted to talk about was also some movies. I saw a couple of movies this weekend, and I thought I'd throw some recommendations at you people and give my thoughts and impressions on the movies that I saw. I wound up seeing 2 movies this weekend, which I usually don't go to the movie theater. I might go to the movie theater once a month. And for me to go twice in one weekend is irregular. But, in any case, it is what it is. So, I wanted to talk about that as well. So, with all of that, let's start with Ring of Honor. They did Best in the World. It was their latest pay-per-view. And overall, I thought it was a good show. I thought, good action all throughout, which you expect of Ring of Honor. The Young Bucks, AJ Styles, 6-man tag against the Kingdom. Action-packed, crazy, and it was like watching pinballs bounce all over the place, but I feel like I say the same thing about every single one of the Young Bucks matches. I've said it before, they're, terrific action-based spot displays whenever you watch the Young Bucks, but not a whole lot of psychology. And for some reason, like, even teams like Red Dragon, who are typically really, really good at tag team psychology and that stuff, everybody adjusts to work the Young Bucks style, when I wish it would be the other way around. It's kind of like Rob Van Dam, where in a normal Rob Van Dam match, he would just be all about hitting his spots, but if you put him in there with a good worker to kind of lead the dance, you'd get a really good match out of him. Unfortunately, we get more of these spotty, all over the place pinball Young Bucks, and all their matches just kind of turn into that, which, again, it's fun to watch, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you put more than 10 seconds of thought into it. And unfortunately, it kind of took away from the no DQ match for the tag titles, which came up next, because the 6-man tag bounced and flopped around all over the place, and then you had the tag match, which was no DQ, so they had every excuse for it to be a wild free-for-all, and because a wild free-for-all preceded it, the crowd wasn't as receptive to the tag title match, which was kind of unfortunate. But in any case, the Contenders 3-Way was a solid match. Roderick Strong got the title shot, which wasn't shocking. I'm trying to think, what else was on this show? ACH and Seidel versus the Decade. That match was okay. Silas Young versus Dalton Castle. That match was okay. The opening match, Mark Briscoe versus that new guy. His name's already escaped me. But that match was solid. Good opener. Just a bunch of good, not necessarily great, but good, solid matches throughout, with each match offering at least something of note, whether it be a big spot or, something to kind of make it memorable. And then you got a killer main event, I thought, with, both titles on the line, the ROH World title and the ROH TV title, Jay Lethal versus Jay Briscoe, the Battle of the Jays, for both belts on the line, with Jay Lethal getting the win, which was a terrific match. I thought just very, very good all around, with all sorts of crazy stuff, like the, putting each other, pile driving each other through tables and stealing each other's moves. Well, Jay Lethal stole Jay Briscoe's moves, but, with both belts on the line and both guys being built up as well as they were, both of them had been on huge winning streaks ever since winning their belts. And I think they mentioned that Jay Briscoe, that is, he hadn't been pinned in like 2 years, and Jay Lethal is the longest running title holder in Ring of Honor currently right now. So Yeah, so you got both guys built up with so much credibility, and then you have the added aspect of 2 titles on the line, and it was a great setup, and it paid off well with a great match, and Jay Lethal got the win, which I was happy for, because it's like, oh, okay, Jay Lethal's getting his chance, that's pretty cool, and it's cool to have a top heel in that spot rather than a babyface, and it was time for Briscoe to drop the belt anyway. I mean, he'd gone on for a long time as champion, so I thought it was time for him to drop the belt, and overall, I thought the main event came off really well. Overall, I'd probably say the pay-per-view itself was probably like a B+ with a really killer main event. And I think that is probably the best way to sum it up. But yeah, really enjoyable show all around. Now, what does this mean for Ring of Honor on Destination America going forward? Their shows, since they've been on Destination America, their shows have been solid. I like the presentation. I like the way the show overall is presented. The production probably needs a little bit of work, but what I'm looking for is what are they going to do now that they've gotten past Best in the World, because now we're going to be getting into the shows that are going to start being taped after they've gotten onto Destination America, because before the shows that aired on Destination America were shows that they already had in the can that already aired in the local markets. So now we're going to be getting, okay, now, you've known about the Destination America deal, you've been on Destination America for a month, now I want to see what they bring and see if they make any changes or adjust or just keep doing what they're doing. In any case, it should be interesting to see. Ring of Honor, they've got chances to do some big things, so here's hoping. I wish them all the best. I think, one thing I will say, I do think Ring of Honor right now has, by default, the best tag team division in wrestling, because WWE doesn't showcase their tag division all that well. They have teams, they just don't showcase them all that well. NXT, I mean, a good tag division is like the one thing that they're really lacking. TNA, they keep shooting their tag team division in the foot. Or their guys get hurt. So it's like this double-edged sword that just keeps affecting that tag division. In Lucha Underground, they've got the Trios division, which still in its infancy. It has had some really good stuff early on, but again, it's still in its infancy, and there's not a whole lot of depth there either. So, but when you consider that Ring of Honor has the Addiction, Kazarian and Daniels, they've got the Kingdom, they've got War Machine. I actually really like that team. I hadn't seen too much of them, but the little bit I've seen, I'm like, I kind of like it. They're a nice bruiser tag team, and not what you would expect from Ring of Honor in the way they look and their style and everything. Excuse me. So I really like them. They've got the Young Bucks, they've got Red Dragon, they've got Red Dragon, who's probably my number one favorite team that they have. So there's a lot of good stuff there in the tag team ranks, and I really, that's typically the stuff that gets me excited. So I'm hoping that ROH continues to showcase their tag division and let them grow and develop and do all sorts of great things, because right now they pretty much, at least in North America, they've got the best tag team division in pro wrestling. So again, here's hoping. Should be really good. But moving right along, did want to talk about Lucha Underground and their all night long special, the match with Prince Puma and Johnny Mundo for the Lucha Underground Championship. Very good, very cool, very well done. There were obvious moments where they were stretching for time, especially when they were brawling through the crowd and stuff, and the way they set up the 4 tables seemed to take forever. It's like, yeah, they're stretching for time here. I can kind of tell. But overall, it was an exciting match to watch. You got great wrestling action in the beginning and at the end. You got great brawling, great hardcore action. I love that the crowbar shot from Mundo basically put Puma out and gave ended up leading to Mundo getting a 4-1 lead pretty easily. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's no disqualifications, and you hit a guy with a crowbar and then just get a lot of pins. That should work, right? And so I thought that came off really well. It created some great drama because it looked like, oh my God, Puma's going to run out of time. And it led to Alberto El Patron coming back and getting his revenge on Mundo and basically costing him the match. And we got to a point which I thought was, again, playing off the no DQ thing, I thought was very smart, where Mundo realized, he's like, look, I'm still a fall up. All I have to do is avoid him for the next 5 minutes and I win. So he just basically just played cat and mouse. It's like, can't count me out. So I can just avoid you and still get the win. And that led to Alberto coming out and throwing him back in the ring and everything, and basically costing him the match. So, you got a huge return from El Patron. You got, who, by the way, looks like a superstar in Lucha Underground. Here's a guy who I was never that high on in the WWE. It's like every once in a while you have a good match, or every once in a while they'd push his character in a way that worked. But for the most part, he never really interested me that much. But in Lucha Underground, he looks like a superstar, and the way they react to him and the way he plays off the crowd and the way he speaks and carries himself, it's like, man, he's like a completely different guy. So I don't know if it's like you get away from WWE creative and the shackles just come off and you're great. I don't know. He just needed a new setting or a new home or whatever. But in any case, I've really enjoyed Alberto's work in Lucha Underground so far, and I think he's only had like 3 or 4 matches. So he hasn't even he hasn't been on TV that much, so he feels more special when he does show up, and it feels like a big deal. So yeah, it looks like we're gonna get Mundo and El Patron at Ultima Lucha, which should be, I think, a great match. If their first match is any indication, I think this second one should be great. It looks like we're gonna get Puma defending the title against either Drago or Mil Muertes. I'm fine with either one of those. I'm leaning more towards Muertes because Mil Muertes has never gotten a title shot. You're probably going to get some kind of payoff to the Aztec medallion thing that they're doing, which is kind of intriguing all of its own. You'll probably get the trios titles being defended against the Disciples of Death or whatever. So there's a lot of good things that they've got going, building into the Ultima Lucha special. You'll probably get Pentagon versus Vampiro. I have no idea what kind of shape Vampiro is in and what he's going to be able to do in this thing, but the angle's interesting, so hopefully it pays off well. Yeah, here's hoping. They're building to this pretty big season finale. I hope it all delivers, because right now, Lucha Underground, I praise them all the time. The show is fantastic, and actually there's talk that they've been nominated for an Emmy. Am I reading that right? God, I mean, if it's a long shot, but if Lucha Underground actually won an Emmy, that would be pretty remarkable. I mean, no wrestling show that I know of has ever gotten that kind of accolade. So it'd be interesting, and quite honestly, I feel like they deserve it with the level of television production that goes into making the shows and the way they present themselves. It's really unlike any other wrestling show out there, and they really carve their own unique identity. So it'd be if they got some kind of like accolade for that, that would be really cool. I think it would really. I mean, you want to talk about something that would validate them and set them apart from all the other wrestling promotions, that'll do it. I mean, the actual recognition, even getting nominated is a big deal. So, so yeah, that'd be very interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out and everything. I mean, I'm not going to hold my breath and expect them to win the Emmy, but again, it's cool all the same. But that's enough wrestling talk for right now. Let's talk some movies. I saw 2 movies this weekend. The first one I saw was Spy, which is the big spy movie spoof that they're doing with Melissa McCarthy and Jason Statham and all sorts of stuff. And overall, I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by how good it was, because Melissa McCarthy, I liked her initially, and I've liked her in certain things. The problem is that she's kind of been typecasted as fat, ugly slob that acts goofy, and it just makes for really shitty movies and really bad projects, and it's just not funny. It's just, it's just not funny. So when I saw that they were making this movie, I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, okay, another shitty Melissa McCarthy movie. And overall, though, I thought it was pretty funny. I was really surprised at how again, she came across as charming, and they kind of made fun of the way she's been typecasted. They made that into a running gag throughout the movie. I don't know if that was the intention, but that's kind of how I took it. And you had Jason Statham thrown in there, who basically played a parody of himself, and he was hilarious. I thought he was going to be like, they were going to be partners the entire time throughout the movie as they're handling their big spy mission and everything. But in actuality, Statham was kind of this running gag that kind of kept popping up throughout the film and just being hilarious and referencing his own movies and just being all intense and crazy and yet completely inept as a spy. And overall, I thought Statham was hilarious, and every time he popped up, it was just great. And going for the more running gag thing actually made him work better, because the way the movie was playing out, I kept waiting for him to pop back up. So yeah, Statham was a lot of fun in it, and I really enjoyed it. So it was good to see a movie that was a spoof and a parody that was actually good, because, I grew up on the Mel Brooks movies, which, you go down the list: Spaceballs, Blazing Saddles, History of the World, Young Frankenstein, even High Anxiety, which doesn't get a whole lot of love. I love that one. Silent Movie was good, and that one kind of gets overlooked. So, Mel Brooks was kind of the king of the spoofs, and Then you get to the modern age with the date movies and the scary movies and the all the other blank movies, epic movie, disaster movie, all that fucking bullshit, and just really took the art of parody and just took it down to this lowest common denominator that was just horrible. So, to see a movie, an actual movie that was a good spoof of a genre was actually really refreshing to see. And I was like, okay, that was good. I'm not saying it's the greatest thing ever made. It's not, like, fantastic or anything, but it was a good time, and I did enjoy myself. And actually, I'll say this. Rose Byrne, I think her name is, she played the villain in the movie. I thought she was hilarious. She might have been my favorite character in the movie. So she was just so, like, needlessly nasty. She was just, the insults that she hurled at everybody were just amazing. So she's just this, like, wonderfully nasty character. It was just really great. So, I thought Spy was a very entertaining movie. And if you're looking for a good spoof, I think that's a good one to go for. So, that one gets my stamp of approval. And the other movie I saw was Pixar's Inside Out. If anybody knows me, you know that I'm a big Pixar fan, at least of their past works. I love Toy Story. I love Monsters, Inc. is really good. Finding Nemo was a movie that was so good, I thought they'd never top it. Of course, they ended up topping it about 4 or 5 times, but Finding Nemo, beautiful movie. Incredibles manages to be a better Fantastic Four movie than the actual Fantastic Four movies. Very, very good superhero film. And very smart, too. It actually deconstructs superheroes in a way that it's actually, the best way to sum it up, The Incredibles is kind of like the G-rated family-friendly version. I think it's PG, but anyway. It's like a family-friendly version of Watchmen, if that makes any sense to anybody. It's very smart and very clever. What else? I loved Up. If that movie doesn't break your heart, I don't know what will. WALL-E, I love WALL-E. He's like my favorite Pixar character ever. Just an adorable little thing. I love that little guy so much. Toy Story 3 broke my heart and gave us like the ultimate happy ending, which is why are they bothering to make a 4th movie? I don't get it. You had the perfect ending there at 3. I kind of don't want to see the 4th movie because I don't want to have the 3rd movie tainted for me. My personal favorite that Pixar has done is Ratatouille. I know that's a weird one. I think that's one that a lot of people like, or even would go as far to say that they love it, but I don't think anybody else says it's their favorite. I don't know. I just liked this very simple approach that the film had, where it's this very simple idea of like a rat that wants to be a cook in the human kitchen, and this ultimate romantic story of pursuing your dream or whatever, and it could have easily been ridiculous, but overall it felt very human and down to earth, and again it's very like minimalistic. They get a lot out of very little, and all the side characters are nutty and they're great, and the ending is one of my favorite endings in the history of film. So it's I don't know, Ratatouille, that one I always really, really liked, and that one's probably my favorite one that Pixar's done. But so Pixar has set a pretty high standard for animated films, or just film in general. I mean, they were like, when their A game is just in the forefront, there's no better movie studio on the planet. They just, they do really good work. They made Toy Story 3, which was an absolute unquestioned masterpiece, and then they kind of, the quality of their films kind of took a nosedive, unfortunately. Cars 2 came out, and I liked the first Cars, I'll be honest. It's not one of the better Pixar films, but I did enjoy it. I never wanted a sequel to it, especially one that focused on the Larry the Cable Guy character. It made him the main focus. That was not something I wanted to see. But I forgave it because it's like, all right, Pixar was due for a bad one. They made so many great movies. It was like they were due to make a bad one. And it's not that it was the worst thing ever made or anything. It's just by Pixar standards, it was by far the worst thing they've ever made. Then they made Brave, which I thought was going to be amazing, and it kind of didn't live up to those expectations and was kind of a disappointment. I was like, okay. And when I found out that the original director left the film over creative differences, I was like, yeah, it kind of showed, because the movie feels a little bit disjointed and the story feels a little bit disjointed. So it feels like a movie that was in production hell. So, okay, that happens. I let that slide. Then Monsters University came out, and I was like, all right, Pixar, what are you doing? You're not even trying anymore. And again, it's not that Monsters University was horrible. It's just the same level of creativity and energy and imagination that was in the previous Pixar films. It just wasn't there by this point. They were just kind of like, oh, let's revisit all these old things and make sequels. And I'm like, Pixar, you're better than that. That was one of the most exciting things about the next Pixar movie, was that they weren't in the habit of making sequels. Outside of Toy Story, they were not in the habit of making sequels. And it was exciting to see, all right, what's their next big idea going to be? What new characters are we going to fall in love with? And all these other things. And now they were getting into this pattern where it was like, oh, let's just make a shitload of sequels. Like there's a Finding Nemo sequel coming out. They're making Toy Story 4, which is completely unnecessary. I think Incredibles 2 has been confirmed. So we got all these things to wait for, and I'm just like, Pixar, I don't know. It's like, where's the originality? Where are the new things? Where's the new ideas? With all the sequels on the way and the lower quality of the recent movies, I was thinking, man, Pixar's ain't what it used to be. And then I started seeing stuff for Inside Out, and it was like, first of all, right off the bat, I was like, well, oh, thank God, it's new characters. It's a new situation, new character, new premise, new everything. So that was good to see. And but at the same time, I was kind of like, well, it's not the guaranteed hit anymore, so I'll wait until I see what the critics say and what everybody else says. And immediately, right off the bat, it was like, nope, this one's really good. It has like a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, and everybody loves it, and people said it made them cry and everything, and it looks all colorful and imaginative, and I was like, okay, that's a good sign. Really, really good sign. So I went to go see it on Saturday, and I am happy to report that it was an absolutely wonderful movie. Absolutely wonderful. I really, 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 really liked it. And it was like, oh God, Pixar's back. Thank you, dear God. They made a really good one. I really, really enjoyed this film. And it was really, again, it's classic Pixar. They take a simple idea of, let's personify your emotions. Let's make them into characters and tell a story based off that, of like the struggles of everyday life told from the point of view of these little personified little emotions, joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. And first of all, the voice cast is really good. Amy Poehler as Joy is just perfect. It's basically like a cartoon version of Leslie Knope. It's just too perfect. Lewis Black as Anger might be the most appropriate casting in the history of everything. That was perfect. I think Mindy Kaling is discussed. I've never actually watched Mindy Kaling's show or anything, so I don't know that much about her, but she was good here. Bill Hader was Fear, and he's great. I always kind of mark out for him a little bit. Ever since I saw him in Superbad, I'm like, I really like that guy. He's funny. So it was good to see him here. And Phyllis Smith was Sadness, and she's known for being in The Office, but one thing I always remember her for is Bad Teacher. Which is one of those movies where the cast makes it better than it really is, because it's one of those movies that, man, this would have been a really funny movie if the writing was better, but the cast is really, really good at it, and I like all the characters. I just wish the script was better and the jokes were better, because I felt like that could have been a really good movie. But Phyllis Smith is in that, and I really liked her in that. She was just really kind of like, oh, well, okay, sure, but it's mandatory, and kind of this wimpy little character and all this other stuff. I was like, man. So when I heard she was cast as Sadness, I was like, okay, that's kind of perfect too. So, and I think the whole voice cast, I think they're all really good. So, but that's never really been a problem for Pixar films for the most part. And again, the imagination that went into the concept of how the emotions work inside your head and how they influence your behavior and how they can handle your thoughts and your memories and everything, all very creative and very good. And it kind of reminded me of Toy Story in that way, where after Toy Story came out, and that movie had so many fresh ideas and so much imagination, that as a 9-year-old when that movie came out, or 9 or 10 or whatever, thinking to myself, I was like, man, what would it be like if my toys came to life? Could come to life. How would they run my room, basically, when I'm not there? And that was fun to think about. I personally pictured it as like, all right, Optimus Prime, He-Man, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Hulk Hogan and the Ninja Turtles are like the council of Patrick's room, and they control everything and keep peace and order within my room when I'm not there. So that's kind of how I pictured it in my head, but what it would be like if my toys could come to life and stand guard over my room. But anyway, it's fun to think about, and even here, watching them sit in headquarters and control your thoughts and your memories and your the way you respond to things and everything, it kind of made me think, man, if there were really 5 little people living inside my head that were controlling my behavior, I wonder what they would be doing. Who would be the dominant one in my brain? Would it be fear, or would it be anger? Would it be sadness or joy or whatever? And the way everything works is really creative and really well done, and just classic Pixar magic. I was just really like, wow, this is really inventive and really like fresh and original. And I mean, I've seen this idea before with like people living inside your head and telling you what to do and everything, but they did it in such a way where they made it feel like the whole inside of your mind is like this whole other universe and this whole other world. And it was just so many bright colors and environments and all this other stuff and creative ways of explaining how thoughts work and how memories work, and it was all very well done and just very creative. I was really blown away by it, and actually, the whole point of the movie, they really did a really good job, and I don't want to spoil anything, but they did a really good job of explaining how complex emotions are and how everyday life is hard. And that's one of the things I loved about the movie, is that there's no villain. There's no, I mean, it would have been so easy to give the girl, the main girl that all the little emotions live inside, it would have been so easy to give her like a bully or something like that. And they don't do any of that. And so it's just everyday life and the little emotions, having to play with that and respond to that appropriately. And ultimately it's determined that, it's okay to feel sad once in a while. It's okay to, let your other emotions kind of feel the way you do, because they're all, ultimately you need to feel sad, you need to feel joy, you need to feel anger and disgust and fear and all of these other things. And yeah, it was just a really simple story, but very emotional too. I mean, it's a movie that'll make you cry, I assume. I read a couple reviews that said if you're a parent, this movie will definitely make you cry and it'll hit it home. I can't speak for that, but I will say it is very emotional at points. And it's one of those movies. It's like it makes you feel the whole rush of emotions. You cry because you're happy. You cry because you're sad. And ultimately, emotions are very complex anyway, which is really what the movie conveys and everything. And just overall, it was a very imaginative film. The characters are fun. I love watching all the characters bounce off of each other, and and it would have been so easy to make all of them kind of these one-note gags, but no, they actually feel like fully fleshed out characters, a lot of them, especially Joy and Sadness, who are really the main focus of the film. And God, I just really liked it. I just really, really liked it. And of course, another thing I have to touch up, the way they explain how dreams work, I thought was very creative and just very funny. I mean, that might have been the funniest part of the whole movie when that whole thing breaks down. But again, I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, I mean, if you're a Pixar fan like I am and you're looking for a good time in the movie theaters, I thought Inside Out was an instant classic, and it was kind of Pixar's return to form after a couple of mediocre entries. So yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. Where would I rank it among the other Pixar films? Probably not as good as like my personal favorites, which are like Ratatouille and WALL-E and Up and Toy Story 3 or whatever, or Finding Nemo, but it's probably that next step down. And it's like, that's like saying it's like it's not an A++, but it's an A+, if that makes any stupid sense. But yeah, this was a great film from Pixar once again, and it felt good to see it, because I haven't, it's been 5 years since Toy Story 3. Has it been that long? Yeah, it's been 5 years since that film, so it's been a really long time. So God, have I been doing videos? Because I remember Toy Story 3 had just come out, and then I made my first video. So I was like, man, have I been doing this for that long? I'm getting old. But in any case, yeah, it's been a while since I felt that Pixar magic, and they really hit it out of the park with this one. So hopefully this is a sign that Pixar's back, and they're going to start doing really good work again, and we can start having more movies like this. And hopefully we never get a sequel to Inside Out. There never needs to be a sequel to this. It stands fine on its own. And again, it was just a beautiful, colorful, wonderful, imaginative film, and just great. And if you've got kids, take them to it. I think they'll really like it. I think adults would really like this too. I've actually read a lot of reviews that said this movie would probably resonate more with adults than with kids. But in any case, that's my movie recommendation. Go see Inside Out. That might be my favorite movie of the year so far. It was just it was beautiful. It was just wonderful. Pixar magic. They're back, and that made me feel good. But that is all I have for now. Hope you all had a good Father's Day weekend, and hope everything else continues to go well. Summer is great. I actually went swimming for the first time today. It felt so good. Felt refreshing. But in any case, that's all I have for you now. I'll be back next week as I talk about more wrestling stuff, and until then, I will see you all later.